Well, we never really get a lot of details about what goes on behind the scenes and the contracts between studios, and this leads to a lot of speculation. We recently got a big reveal, and the truth behind two big Marvel characters that Sony has some major input in. Let's take a couple minutes to talk about Kingpin and Spider-Woman and where they fit into the overall picture of the Marvel movie universe. Well guys, I know I'm not the only one that's fascinated in trying to understand how a lot of these movie rights work. Over the years, Marvel has licensed out several characters, only to try to recollect them under Marvel Studios. This is why they're currently in an agreement with Sony to do those Spider-Man movies and to have Tom Holland in the MCU. Now, many fans don't realize that there are other characters that are covered by this agreement, such as Wilson Fisk's Kingpin and Jessica Drew's Spider-Woman. And we found out in a recent book that both characters are actually shared by Marvel and Sony, which has come as a big surprise to many fans. Now, all of this information comes from With Great Power, and the book was written by Sean O'Connell. And what he has revealed really kind of caught me off guard. Now, many people are really familiar with the Kingpin. He's been a huge Spider-Man villain for years, and Marvel really brought him to life in that Daredevil series, making him a household name. Recently, he's returned to Disney Plus and been part of Hawkeye. He'll be part of Echo, and we know he's going to be part of the upcoming Daredevil Born Again series. Now, it wasn't the first time the character came to life, because he was part of Fox's Daredevil film back in 2003. He wasn't portrayed by Vincent D'Onofrio then, it was actually brought to life by Michael Clark Duncan. Now, when it comes to the Kingpin, I find this pretty interesting, because what this means is that the Kingpin was actually part of the package of characters that Sony got when they licensed Spider-Man from Marvel. And probably because Fox also had Daredevil and they had to share the villain, this is why the rights are currently shared by both Marvel and Sony. Now, obviously, animation rights are a little bit different, but you may remember Sony brought Fisk to life in Into the Spider-Verse. And quite honestly, I'm gonna bet they're probably eyeing that character for other projects. Whether this means Marvel allows them to use Vincent D'Onofrio or they recast the character for their own world, we'll have to wait and see. But the fact that he is a shared character going so far back is really interesting and kinda could change the future of how he fits into the MCU. Now, the second character that they both turn out to share is Jessica Drew, and this is something we've heard for a long time. Now, she has never made it to live action yet, but there is a rumor project being developed by Olivia Wilde. Now, right now, it's totally unclear if this will be part of Sony's Spider-Man universe or she'll be part of the MCU. But there are many rumor reports that seem to suggest that Marvel and Sony may be working out a deal for this character to be very similar to the deal with Tom Holland. Although Tom Holland's movies are released by Sony, they're actually produced by Marvel Studios and part of the MCU. And I think this could possibly be another tie between the two studios that really could work out in a positive manner. Now, she is also another character that's coming to life in Across the Spider-Verse, but this will be a different version, and animation rights, like the ones with the Kingpin, tend to be a little different, and that's not something we got a lot of clarity from with the book. Now, as far as the future of these characters, we're going to have to wait and see. Despite the ownership of the Kingpin being between Sony and Marvel, it doesn't appear Sony is making any current attempts to bring the character to life in live action. Inversely, Marvel Studios has been doing everything they can do to bring Wilson Fisk back and place him into the MCU as that primary street-level antagonist, which I think is a really great move. Now, as for Spider-Woman, quite honestly, we haven't gotten an update on this project in a really long time. Olivia Wilde did allude in an interview that she does have access to those tools of the Marvel Universe. But quite honestly, that could be interpreted multiple ways and doesn't necessarily mean the movie she's working on will be placed in the MCU. It's just not very clear right now, and I don't think we should make any assumptions. Now, I do think the one clue we do have about the character, though, is that Sony is currently working on Madam Web. And Madam Web has multiple incarnations of Spider-Women as core characters in that film, and Jessica Drew is not one of them. This leads me to believe that the character is in this shared status, although obviously Marvel and Sony don't let us look at the contracts, and it's really hard to verify, so we might have to trust the author of the book. Honestly, I believe both characters fit much better in the MCU than they do in Sony's Spider-Man universe. I suppose versions of both characters would work fine there, but the Kingpin's association with multiple Marvel heroes really makes him much more suited there. Additionally, Jessica Drew has a long history in the comics and deep relationships with multiple organizations within the Marvel universe that Sony doesn't have access to, such as S.H.I.E.L.D. and Hydra. I think developing both characters outside of the MCU would probably be a mistake, and I'm going to be a little transparent here. I simply don't trust Sony to handle either one of them. Hopefully Madam Web and some other future projects kind of change my mind, but outside of Into the Spider-Verse, I don't really feel too confident in how Sony has handled many Marvel characters, especially in the recent past, such as Morbius or Let There Be Carnage. I'm totally going to encourage you guys to check out this With Great Power book. If you're a Spider-Man fan, it has turned me on to all kinds of really cool stories about the history of the character. I've linked both the book and the audiobook down below. It's over on Amazon. We get a slight commission on it. It helps the channel, but it's definitely worth you checking out. I absolutely loved it. Plus, if you use the Audible trial, it's 100% free. Now, obviously, we're going to cover these characters and everything Spider-Man moving forward. I really want to know what you guys think about the shared status of both the characters, what you think will happen moving forward, and if you trust Sony handling either one of them on their own. Smash that like and subscribe button and sound off in the comments below. If you like this video, make sure you hit like, click subscribe, and if you don't ring that bell, you won't get any updates. Peace.